Okay, so for social studies, today, Wednesday, April 22nd, and tomorrow, Thursday, April 23rd, you're going to be thinking about the Midwest region and why people decided to start moving west from the East Coast, like the Northeast region, when they first settled here. So I'll read these slides to you, and then you will watch both of those YouTube videos. And by Thursday, hopefully you'll have enough information to help answer the question, why did people move west? Okay, the land of the Midwest. The land of the Midwest is very different from the regions to its east. It is mostly flat, gently rolling land with very few trees. The Midwest has some of the best soil on earth and is great for growing crops. The water in the Midwest is very important. Most major cities in the Midwest formed near these waterways. Before railroads, travel on waterways was less expensive and faster than traveling on land. The Homestead Act. So these are some brochures, pamphlets, and flyers from around the time period trying to get people to move west. They're like advertisements. So the Homestead Act was written by President Lincoln and signed on May 20th of 1862, which granted Americans 160-acre plots of land for a small fee. So 1 acre of land is probably the size of a large house and a big backyard. So think about 160 acres of land is probably going to be the size of a farm, a large farm. So additional requirements included living on the land for 5 years, building a home on it, farming the land, and making improvements to the land. This led to Western expansion and allowed all citizens, including former slaves, women, and immigrants, to become landowners. So this was the government's way of trying to attract people to move west and buy land. It did have some negative effects on the Native Americans who were living in the land and who were there first. The lands promised and given away by the Homestead Act of 1862 were not new land. The land belonged to Native American tribes like the Omaha, Lakota, Dakota, Sioux, and Crow. The Native Americans living on these lands were hunters and gatherers, following the tribes of buffalo across the country. The United States government tricked the tribes into signing treaties. Those are legal documents that they could not read. These treaties stripped them of their land, but offered promises of food, horses, and other land further from settlers. Sadly, the food deliveries stopped coming, and the land they were forced onto was difficult to grow crops. Many Native Americans died in battles or starved to death during this time period. So this is an example of people at the time taking advantage of the Native Americans and stealing their land, and they tricked them into signing these treaties that they couldn't read. So a treaty is just a legal document. Okay. So we have the Homestead Act. That attracted people to move west. It gave them a lot of land. They only had to live on it 5 years, but they had to build a farm on it and improve it. But they only had to pay a little bit of money to get that land, a small fee. And you've learned yesterday that the land in the Midwest was good for farming. There was a lot of waterways and access to that, so that helped. And there were also animals that they could hunt for as well, like buffalo. Obviously, this picture is Chicago. That is not what the Midwest looked like back then.